Hi, I'm Lorelei Day. We are here with Mayor Brenda Gunter, who is the soon-to-be former mayor of San Angelo. Thank you for being here with us today, Mayor.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to visit about my 8 years as mayor.
That's impressive. You've served 2 terms. Take us back to the beginning of your term 8 years ago. Who was the mayor then?
Well, Dwayne Morrison was the mayor prior to myself, and of course he had been a city council member for many years before he ran for mayor. And back then, you had to run every 2 years. So he actually served 2 terms, but they were 2 years each. Unlike when they changed the city charter, you could run for 2 terms, 4 years each, but you maxed out, and term limits became a part of the city charter. So many people said, why aren't you running again? What'd you do, just decide to quit on us? And no, they don't understand. I'm not allowed to. So we put in term limits. I don't believe the term limits apply to cities like ours as they do to, let's say, Congress, where some people are in office for 30 years. And I think that's not good. On the other hand, in San Angelo, we're a small community. And not everybody wants to run for public office because it's hard on a family, it's hard on a marriage. If you're employed, it's hard on a company. If you're self-employed, it's hard on your business. So it's difficult to get a lot of candidates who really are willing, whether it's for mayor or for city council, to sign up and participate. And so we're thrilled for all those who choose to. It's an important part of living in the city and feeling like you better understand your city. And that's the best way to do it, is to serve.
Absolutely. So talking about your background, you have a heavy business background.
I do.
And you're a businesswoman currently. You have done other impressive things over the years. So tell us about how that has translated into your mayoral time.
Well, first of all, in business, you always do 2 things. You create a vision about where you want to go, what the vision means, and then strategically how you're going to make that vision happen. And so I think for the first time, actually, a mayor set out a strategy and a vision for the city of San Angelo, and that was my first thing to do, was to look at us and say, what do we need to focus on? Where do we need to go? And so we created a strategic plan of planes, trains, and automobiles because we kept talking about economic development. You cannot have economic development if you don't have a transportation plan, because anybody that's here in business, one of their greatest expenses on the bottom line is transportation costs. So they're going to look for the quickest, easiest, and least expensive way to transport goods either in or out. So the planes, trains, and automobiles was a strategic plan to say we've got to find a way to add transportation options to anybody who might look at coming to San Angelo to do business. And then the next one, part of that strategy, was maximizing our assets. And that sort of ties in also to the planes, trains, and automobiles. Number one, because we had an airport, which basically just served as an airport where 3 flights a day came in and 3 flights a day went out, American Airlines to Dallas, and there was no development. Many cities, most cities, use their airport as an economic development engine. We didn't and hadn't, and yet we have here really good weather. We have open skies because a lot of planes aren't coming in and out. So it made sense to focus on the airport as one of our assets and figuring out a way to maximize it. So we created an opportunity to get a new master plan done to really look at some options in terms of what could happen at the airport. But at the same time, what was happening was ASU was looking at adding to the curriculum this pilot program. So those 2 things kind of came together at crossroads about the same time period. So all of a sudden now we have pilot training, we have flight school, we have a dual credit opportunity or a dual degree opportunity at ASU. We're now going to put also in the education element of it, the training element, the flight control people, which we know we're desperate for. And we're going to do airplane mechanics, which also allows you to work on escalators, elevators, and we know our escalator at the airport's been down for 2 years, if not 3 years. So we know we need to get that program rolling. So that has become an important part of airport and maximizing that asset. In addition, we're going to extend the taxiway so that we can put in more hangars. Everyone's always begged for more hangars. We need more hangars. So that will start to be done as well. So that was one of our assets. The other asset was Lake Nasworthy. It's our water source, so we needed to protect our water source. And we had a cast iron pipe sewer line going underneath Lake Nasworthy. If that ever blew up and had a major leak, it would have ruined our water supply. But in addition to that, we had not been able to issue any new development permits because we were at capacity on our sewer line. And so it was like having an asset and not really being able to maximize it, whether it was to put in a new hotel, new housing, new restaurants, whatever it is. We couldn't give the permit to go ahead because we couldn't address the sewage issue. In addition to that, if there was a stoppage problem with the sewer, there were smells. So if you lived in an area where there was a sewer line and it stopped up, there was toxic smells. And a couple people had to close their business. A dentist office did, a hair salon did on a couple days because of the smell. So it was a desperate thing that we needed to do. In addition to that, Lake Nasworthy serves as a big quality of life issue in terms of San Angelo. And we needed to repair boat docks. We needed to redo the fishing pier. We needed to turn it into bigger, better recreational center. And so by using the Lake Nasworthy Trust funds, we took $6 million to use to improve the facilities out there. And because we used a lot of that money as the match for grants, we're able to apply for a lot more grants because we have the money to do the matching part. So we're going to end up doing tremendous about more than $6 million on Lake Nasworthy. So that was another asset. Certainly one of our greatest assets is the Coliseum. And the citizens just approved a $41 million improvement to that facility. Not only does it really talk about the culture of our city and our area, but it also needed to have the ability to have big bands or larger bands. It needed to have other things there that perhaps people could use for breakout rooms for conventions or meeting space, etc. And the bathrooms really needed to be redone there. The acoustics really needed to be done there. And so by getting that approved, once again, it maximized an asset that we have. Everyone knows about my passion for downtown, our historic district. And the reason I'm passionate about it is the following. It's the living room of our city. It's about our history. It's about our great beginnings. It's about the heart of the city. And it had been ignored. And yet that's where commercial businesses all started. It was the center of the city. So if you ignore it, you're ignoring an important part of what could make the city a better quality of life city. By improving historic downtown, what we've been able to do is to create an opportunity for Shannon Hospital or ASU to hire people. Because when they interviewed people, if you had a dead downtown that looked like nobody cared, it's pretty hard to recruit. By having an active downtown, an entertainment district downtown, we've been able to hire people because we can show them that we care and that there's something to do here. In addition to that, we certainly take great pride in Goodfellow Air Force Base. And historic downtown is an entertainment district. Its location is very close to Goodfellow Air Force Base, so it really allowed the people who were stationed at Goodfellow Air Force Base to have an easy ride, if you will, or drive to historic downtown and find music and live bars and restaurants and things that added to their quality of life when they're stationed here in San Angelo. So that was another quality of life issue and another maximizing our assets. So strategically, if you don't have a game plan, what you spend too much time on is just passing ordinances, which don't necessarily add to the quality of life that you have. Sometimes you just add to the inconvenience that people think they have to live by the ordinances. So you want to know if you're passing an ordinance, you want to ask yourself, did it improve or did it hurt quality of life? Did it help more citizens or hurt more citizens? And you need to ask that question before you vote so that we become a customer-friendly city and a city council that believes in protecting the quality of life here.
So talking about quality of life, this has been something that we have heard throughout your whole tenure here. Tell us a little bit more about it, why it's so important for a city to grow and thrive by having a good quality of life, and what are some specific projects that have lent to that?
Quality of life is not only about people who look at us to perhaps move here, or a company to move their organization here. People want to know that they're asking their employees or realtors working with a customer that they have something to sell. And quality of life is what you want to sell. And so if we don't look at things like our parks, if we don't look at things like a recreational Lake Nasworthy, if we don't look at the ease of transportation, whether it's recreational out of the airport or whether it's transportation to reduce costs, all of those things are important quality of life. Trails are important quality of life. We're a rare city that we have a Concho River running through their downtown area. That's a huge big quality of life addition. People love walking around the Concho River. But more importantly, if you drive through South Irving, you will always see families fishing. Lots of fishing going on. And so that has produced a good quality of life for the city as well. There's certainly more room for more trails, but trails in this city are real important. One realtor told me that it used to be that when customers were looking at a city to move into, they used to talk about golf courses. How many golf courses do you have? How's the golf course? How's it rated? Now they ask about trails. And part of that is because of an aging society. And so people want to know they have a place to get out and walk and exercise and enjoy the outdoors. And our trails really do that for us. So those are all important. You also want to make sure citizens have something to do. And so you want citizens, if they have family to come into town, to have something to do. Well, going downtown is a part of what they do. And most people always talk about, Eggemeyer's, for example, as a great place to showcase something that's really unique and different. But so are many of the other restaurants and shops. What I love the most about our downtown area is the fact of the entrepreneurial spirit. These are things that can't be transported, if you will, or shipped in an Amazon box or duplicated. They are unique to San Angelo. They're ours. And it was the creativity of somebody who said, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my bar, my restaurant, my shop, whatever it is. It's all about me, my passion, and you can't sell that on Amazon.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the government side of things. Mm-hmm. So you have been in this world. You've seen what it takes to get a project done. There's things are often not just overnight. They never are. But what have you learned about city government that you think people maybe need to know or don't understand? City services, city government.
It used to be that people said it was the easiest thing in the world to do development in San Angelo decades ago because we really didn't have a planning and permit office at the same level that we have today. So people just kind of went out and remodeled a building and there they went. And that sounds like it's something that you want to do. On the other hand, you want to make sure that there's safety involved. And a lot of the processes that you have to go through to build or construct or to remodel are about safety. And so that process is meant to give, whether it's a business, a home builder, safety, and that there's standards, that we live by a certain level of standards, that we want to make sure from an ADA compliance that we believe enough in it that we make sure everybody addresses those issues. What many people didn't understand, I think I didn't initially either, is that ADA only kicks in when you remodel. And so if a building wasn't being remodeled, you didn't have to have the ADA compliance. But once you start remodeling, from city facilities to individual businesses, ADA kicks in and you've got to upgrade your ADA compliance. And that's been a big passion for a couple of the city council members, but it's really important for this community. And again, it's a quality of life issue. We have a generation of people in San Angelo that are retirees, a lot of military retirees here, but a lot of people who have families here, grandkids and kids. So people move here because of that. Cost of living is reasonable, so people want to move here in retirement. So we also want to make sure that as we look at who the population is in this city, that we are looking at the things that would make our city interesting to them.
Very good. Okay, so during your time here again, what projects would you say were your top priority, and where, maybe pick a couple out that have really grown from when you started to today?
Number one, when I first became mayor, we pretty much said this: we want you to know we're going to be customer friendly. Our doors are open. Move your business here. Move your family here. We want you to be a part of the city of San Angelo. And you can look at that and look at the dynamic difference in the growth of sales tax revenue and property tax revenue. We were not a city before that said, we want you here. We were a city that pretty much said, we don't want to grow. We just like it is. But here's the problem: just like it is, and not having a welcome to San Angelo, whether it's business or family, basically means you're going backwards. You have to have growth. And we're lucky in San Angelo that we only have 1.5% to 2% growth a year. We don't have a huge growth over a 10-year period, of course, but on an annual basis, because you have to have growth. And I speak often about the fact that San Angelo is becoming a smaller dot on the map. It's a smaller dot on the map because the I-35 corridor is growing by leaps and bounds. Where we might have a 1% to 2% increase on an annual basis, they have a 10 to 15% or 30% growth on a large base. And everything's competitive. Everything. So a smaller city has to fight harder to compete. And so we have to have some growth. We know with inflation that if you don't have growth, but there's growth in your expenses, you go backwards. You go deeper into the hole. You can't do that. Growth is necessary. Controlled growth is important, but it's necessary. We have to have a city where people can be employed at a living wage, not a minimum wage. Affordability. But you can't have living wage if you don't have industry here, if you don't have commercial development here, because living wages are higher wages, but they're attached to jobs that come from industrial commercial development. That's a fact.
So let's go back to Ports to Plains. This
Yes.
has been something that you have helped champion. What is our plan for accommodating that growth, and why is it important? Why are you a proponent of it?
It's important because we're the only city, I think, 100,000 population that doesn't have an interstate. And people, there will always be people who don't want it. But those are people who don't understand why we need it. If you take a look at the cities that we compare ourselves to, this statistic is just one that says describes why. Abilene's just 90 miles from here, right? Sister city. Their sales tax is 60% greater than ours. 60. And yet their population is 25 to 30%. You know why? They have an interstate. We have to have one for more reasons than just that comparison. Because when COVID happened, many people relooked at where their manufacturing was going to be done. So a lot of companies moved out of China into Mexico. And all of a sudden, the amount of truck traffic coming out of Mexico quadrupled. And there's only one route right now that those truck drivers can take, and that's I-35. And yet, at Laredo, there's a 4-hour line of trucks waiting to get through. They have 7 or 8 lanes of truck lanes to come through customs. They're getting ready to expand it to 18. That's how many trucks are coming from Mexico. And they're all going up the I-35 corridor. They have no alternative route. And yet, there's 600 miles between I-35 and I-25. There's no other route north than those two. And the reason congestion is such a big problem in I-35 corridor, well, if you don't take some traffic off of it, you'll never be able to build enough lanes of traffic to reduce the congestion. And why? Because they didn't plan ahead. How much wider can you get it? You're going to have to buy a whole lot of homes or a whole lot of businesses in order to expand it. So we have to have an alternative route. And because truck drivers today are limited to only a certain amount of hours a day to travel, if they get stuck on I-35 because of the big accident and they sit for 3 hours, there's a problem. And we need to get traffic trucks out of Laredo, Del Rio, coming north on 87, 277. And that route is from Laredo to Del Rio to Sonora up to San Angelo, Texas, going north. That is why we need it. We need to get product, and we need to get trucks off of the I-35 corridor, and we know the route they need to take, and it's Ports to Plains route. It's the I-27 corridor.
And are we gonna see that in our lifetime?
Yes, well, you're younger than I am, and I still plan to see it. So I look at it this way. We just put up our first I-27 sign in April. Jody, our senator from Lubbock, was there. Ted Cruz, our senator from the United States Congress, was there. It tells you how important it is. And that sign was a sign that says it's happening. It's going to happen. This is just the beginning. And it's a sign that says our legislators believe in it. They're here to help us put up that sign, so they believe in it. You can't get a future interstate unless you have federal approval. So you have to get the feds, the legislators, to approve a future interstate. So that was the first tough thing that we had to do. And then you have to have TxDOT locally, the state of Texas, approve it. So then you have the state approving it and you have the federal government approving it. And now we just have to work with them to come up with the funds to make it happen. But it doesn't just go to an automatic interstate, and that's what many people believe. So if it's a 2-lane highway today, they usually go from a 2-lane highway to a 2-lane passing lane, or if it's a 2-lane passing, they go to 4-lane. Then they go 4-lane to divided interstate quality. So the entire route will be improved, but it won't all be at the same level at the same time. And then you build reliever routes, so people who are worried about more traffic coming through the city, no, we will plan reliever routes so all that truck traffic can go around us. Then they go, well, maybe that'll hurt our economy because people will have the ability to go around us. Those are two separate issues. There are people who want to come to a city like San Angelo and visit and shop and see and do. Then there's truck drivers and businesses who need what they sell and what they manufacture to get to their end game as quick as possible and as efficiently as possible.
So talking about roadways, let's move into town.
Yes.
Tell me about we've had a lot of things, the downtown Chadburn streetscape. We've had a 10-year street program. You touched on the interstates, but talk about some of the big projects that were accomplished and why they're important.
One of the biggest criticism when I first started running for mayor was just how horrible our streets were. That was the single biggest issue. Streets. Our streets are horrible. So that became a top priority. And when I first became mayor, and the council that has sat with me during that time period became our important part of what we looked at financially and what we budgeted. So we created an $80 million bond, or approved one, which we would take $20 million every 2 years and work on a major project. So MLK Boulevard was considered one of the worst streets, so that became the number one street that we worked on. Then Bell Street was hugely critical, and that is a street that carried a lot of commercial trucks, a lot of truck traffic, and it was just beat to a pulp. But what we tried to do at the time period, for example, on Bell Street, was to look at the utilities at the same point in time. So it wasn't just street reconstruction, it was utilities and street reconstruction. So it was a $22 million project. MLK was a 7-something million. So it became very expensive, and they're becoming more expensive every year because product's more expensive. And certainly College Hills was one of the worst. When it rained hard, which it doesn't rain hard very often around here, but when it did, it was a nightmare. And part of it was because there was no floodplain strategy. When they started to build and develop the College Hills area back then, it was not required to do an engineering plan. So there was no plan to deal with flooding. So you just built. And so over the years, a lot of construction had happened, but no plan to do something with the water that came with heavy rains. And so College Hills was flooded constantly. And when it floods, it ruins the street quality. So that was another project that was a combination of not only street reconstruction, but curbs, sidewalks, and utilities all in one. And that was a $40-some million project. It didn't take long to eat up a lot of the bond money, and we're in that last segment of that bond money. We'll have to go back out for another bond, probably in the next couple of years, to continue that the work on the streets. But it's never ending. It will never, ever end. When I came into office, we were spending about $600,000 a year total on streets. That included seal coat and fixing the problem, potholes or whatever. That's it. Today, we spend about $4 million a year just on seal coating, protecting the existing street structures. And then reconstruction. North Chadbourn was a big project, and that is a new process for preserving and updating a street instead of total reconstruction. But it's expensive, and it's expensive when you have to look at utilities plus the street reconstruction. But we're doing it the right way. We're spending the money to do it the right way so that they'll last longer. Where we needed to use concrete instead of just typical asphalt, we've done that to protect the longevity of the streets. But it will always be a major part of what the city does, and we have to keep our eye on that, because that's one of the first things a city is responsible for, is the infrastructure of a city. It's one of the key reasons a city government exists, and we really got our eye off the ball several years ago. But the council has really focused on it. We've got a great team of people working on it. And it, again, becomes a big part of quality of life, because nobody wants to be driving down the streets or moving to a city that has terrible streets.
Definitely not. And we've seen some incredible improvement.
We have.
College Hills is smooth sailing right now. And Chadbourn, just great work done. Another, if not the most important aspect of a city, is the water. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what you have done for our water sources to secure things. Tell me more about it. So
in 2011, I think we were less than 6 months worth of supply of water, and really didn't have a game plan for what we could do. There might have been conversation about it, but there hadn't been a real plan put together. West Texas Water Partnership was created to go find water resources, number one. And number two, we also looked at it and said, we've got to get the money and start on the Hickory Aquifer development. We have the capability to build 20 wells. We've completed 15 of those wells. We're almost done with the next 5, and that will complete the well field. And that water needs to be there for when we need it. We're always going to use surface water first because the evaporation off of Lake Nasworthy is huge. 115-degree weather, you lose more than you're serving. So you have to have groundwater. So we spent a lot of money on buying the Ford Ranch, securing the Ford Ranch to secure our water, and making sure that we invested to get those wells in place and have the ability to pump into San Angelo, Texas. And it became crucial during the COVID scenario because we were needing to build up water pressure, and we couldn't get it done. We didn't know what was going on, but we couldn't get the water pressure. Finally, we were able to get electricity that had been turned off, had been hurt by the cold winter storm. And we were able to start pumping more water in from the Hickory Aquifer. And that allowed us to finally build up enough water to get water pressure so that all parts of the city ended up with water after that horrible winter storm.
That was a time.
That was a time. So we've done that. And then we have the Concho River Water Project, which is using your gray water and wastewater. And that project is in the process of getting TCEQ approved, but it's taking what you have, cleaning it, and bringing it back in for use. So if you have 7 million gallons of gray water, you get 7 million back. So you don't have to have a new water source. You're creating your own water source. So that has become an important project that we're working on. And then we have Fort Stockton water, which is a lifesaver as well. So we've come up with all of those options in terms of water sources, which are all groundwater sources or existing water combined with a treatment plant. So we never have to say again, we don't have water. One of the first meetings that I had with the military was in Austin, and they said, so we understand that you don't want to grow Goodfellow Air Force Base because you don't have any water. I'm like, not true. We have water. We will always have water. Don't shut Goodfellow's growth down because you're fearful of water. We will have the water. We will find the water. We're creating water resources, and we've done that. So all of a sudden, instead of having a 6-month supply of water, we've got a 75-year plus supply of water. And that gives confidence to people who want to build here, who want to move here, who want to develop here. We are going to have water.
Okay, so talking about San Angelo's assets, you've touched on many of those. Let's talk about some more. I know we have so many. We have many designations, this thriving art community. Tell us about all that.
Well, quality of life we've talked a lot about, and of course part of quality of life is maximizing your assets, and I really consider Fort Concho one of our great assets. It's a lot about our history. It's a fort that we take great pride in, and we need to continue to make sure that the funds are there to keep it as the best preserved fort. That's key. People travel to see things like the forts. We need to make sure we have our best foot forward. And with that, we've got a music-friendly designation. The river stage becomes a very important part of that ability to say we're music-friendly. We certainly have venues, businesses that offer music, but the river stage is a wonderful asset. It's right there on the Concho River. The setting is spectacular, and yet we really hadn't spent any money on the river stage in I'm not sure how many decades, but it's been a lot of decades, probably 5 or 6. So we needed to improve that because on a great night in West Texas, you want to sit outside, enjoy the river, and enjoy some music. So we really needed to update the river stage. We needed to make it a better facility for bands to enjoy when they're here, from a dressing room to the buses when they came down the street to unload. The angle of that street, or whatever you call it, it would hit the bottom of the bus and grade the bottom of the bus. So bands didn't want to have to do that. So then they would have to carry everything, their sound equipment and everything. So we needed to improve their ability to get to the stage. We needed to improve the sound. We needed to improve the restrooms. We needed to improve the concessions, and we needed to make it a great asset. It was a good asset, but it wasn't a great asset. Again, we've got to reinvest back into the things that we already have that just need a fresh paint job, a little bringing up the standard from when it was originally created. And I love that river stage. I love where it sits, and you look at the July 3rd event we do there and those fireworks, it's packed. People love being there, and the same thing when we have bands playing there. It's a good facility, but it needs to be a great facility. And so that has been an important part of finding the money and strategizing its change that was needed. And then you have the next thing called art. We are the visual arts capital in the state of Texas, and we need to protect that honor. It is something that we should be proud of, and it's something that we need to highlight because we have a community of tremendously talented artists. So many talented people. And you take a look at an organization like Art in Common Places. They've put so many millions of dollars worth of art out in our parks, all over the downtown area, all over the city. It's amazing what they've spent raising money and taken the cost of creating great environments for kids, for adults to enjoy our outdoor facilities. And then we just announced at the last city council meeting a wonderful gift to the city, and that's the Legacy River Project, which basically will end up putting about $30 million worth of bronze statues across our parks, from the museum, if you will, the river stage area, the Celebration Bridge area, all the way over to the Santa Fe and Beauregard area. And those vignettes of bronze statues will tell about our history. Each vignette will be a story in itself. But it's going to be about 120 bronze statues, a $30 million project that is going to be funded privately. And with that, we will relook at designing some of those park areas to complement the bronze statues and to improve the facilities around the bronze statues. So it's not going to mean lots of irrigation, because these vignettes were during a time period of the prairies. They didn't have irrigation in those decades, right? It was just prairies, and it was hot, it was deserty, wasn't landscaped. But we need to be able to light it, to protect it, landscape around it, and then tell the story about San Angelo. And it goes back to the fort. It's all tied into the days of the fort. And the fort has given us the opportunity to be designated as a Western town, one of the top Western towns in the United States. We've had a first place a couple times, a second place a couple times. We're an important city for exploring and understanding the West, and that's our story. It's our history, and we want to celebrate it. And we want to make sure everybody understands who we are.
It's a big part of preserving our history.
It is.
And on that note,
yes,
you also spearheaded the cultural district, the historic preservation district.
Yes. So I'm a big believer in protecting. You don't want to do a woulda, shoulda, coulda and find out it's too late. So not only did we create a historic overlay to protect our buildings, to make sure they don't keep getting torn down. There's some of the most incredible buildings that we had in downtown architecturally. They're torn down because no one took the time to create a historic district overlay to protect our history. So we lost a lot. We got to stop doing that. So we're going to protect that. And then that's on primarily the north side of the river. And then on the south side of the river, we've created a cultural arts district, or I want to say a heritage art museum district. And that needs to be protected because with growth and with development, whether it's a new hotel on the river, whether it is downtown living on the river, whether it's trying to create an area where someone might want to make jewelry in their home and have a jewelry store. Someone might want to be an artist and open up an art studio in an old house. Someone might want to create a B&B. Somebody might want to be a metal artist and do things that are trades, creative trades. So we want to make sure we protect the south side of the river for our cultural district, which one of the key, most beautiful buildings on the river is the museum. And we need to protect all the area around that, including, of course, we have the Love Pool there, we have the river stage there. We want to make sure that those are always highlighted and that the development around it complements it. So you got to protect it. And it won't harm anybody because it won't change anybody's zoning, but it will protect it from somebody coming in and doing things that would not enhance that area.
Okay, so during your time here, there have been economic development has been at the forefront of your priorities. Tell us about some of the major things that have happened. We have the industrial park, the rail port. Tell us more about that.
In order to grow economic development, you have to have assets. Something that says to somebody, we've got this area that is for industrial growth, commercial development, whether it be the rail park, whether it is the industrial park, whether it's the airport. Those things not only are assets, but they're the ways we will attract business to San Angelo, Texas. And that is an important part, because when somebody comes here and they go, well, I do this for a living and this is my business, whatever, where should I go? You got to have a place to show them where to go, depending on what their need is. And that was an important part of making sure those facilities address the needs of economic development and growth. They're all tied together. And we're prepared for future growth based off having those facilities available.
So tell us about the industrial park. What all is going to be in there and how has that developed?
One of the great things that's happened is the first Amazon facility opened there. And what we're going to see, not at that industrial park necessarily, but what we are going to see in San Angelo, Texas, is a data center development that in its big picture won't necessarily end up employing a lot of people, but what it will do is provide a lot of revenue growth for the city. You know, Midland, Texas has the oil and gas industry, which really, really grows their property tax base. Our property tax base is primarily made up of residential. We still have a very small percent of our property tax dollars being driven by commercial and industrial. And that's the reason why our property tax rate is as high as it is compared to Midland, for example, because the dollars of their industrial commercial development are larger than the residential. In San Angelo, it's the exact opposite. Residential makes up 69-70% of our total property tax dollars. So what you want is something that brings tremendous amount of growth to your industrial commercial development, property tax and sales tax, so that ultimately you hope the city will have the ability to maintain or decrease the property tax rate. And that data center opportunity will really bring a big base, a new base of property tax dollars to the city, as well as sales tax, because the large dollar valuation of the equipment that will be in the data center, very expensive, and a lot of it, as well as the land development. So that will really help our revenue stream. We've never had one large, big project that could dynamically add 25 to 30% to our property tax growth. Midland has that. Abilene has that. We don't have it. And this will be a key to turning the tide and seeing a growth in the commercial and industrial property tax dollars as a percentage of our total dollars.
You sound like a business person. Okay, and then touching on the rail port, trains.
Trains today are a great way to reduce transportation costs. I might quote this number wrong, but for every rail car that you have, you take, I think, something like 9 trucks off the roads. So you're reducing the cost of transportation. And once again, we know that a lot of product is going to come out of Mexico. We are waiting for the rail bridge to open up in Presidio. It burned down 10, 12 years ago. They've completed rebuilding that rail. But then we had this issue called an open border. And so people were not interested in really putting in a Customs and Border Patrol facility at that rail bridge because of the problems we were having with Customs. Now that there's some control on that, they are working on, and the work has started on putting in the Customs and Border Patrol facility at Presidio, Texas, with that rail bridge. When that rail bridge opens up, we'll have a lot more trains and a lot more manufacturers using our rail to bring product into San Angelo, Texas, which will increase our distribution and warehousing at the rail park. It's slow building, but it will explode, and it will become a very important part of also some more commercial and industrial growth.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. It will be a great success story for the future of San Angelo, Texas.
Absolutely. Okay, so what do you hope your legacy is going to be as you leave the council?
I hope my legacy will be is that I got things done, that I had a vision and I had a strategy, and I helped move the city forward.
And what do you hope that the new mayor and city council will prioritize, and how can they best continue your legacy?
First, it's important to say that part of our success, or a major part of our success, is the fact that we as a council worked well together. And the strategic plan that I laid out when I first became mayor was supported by the city council members. So Tom Thompson, the new mayor, was a part of supporting those decisions and those plans. And so he understands that. He voted to support it. And I believe that the existing city council members understood why we needed to do those things and will support it as well. So I don't fear that there will be a dramatic change in the focus, because again, what is a city supposed to do? Invest in infrastructure. So they're not going to change their focus on infrastructure, and infrastructure is waters and streets. A city is responsible for public safety, fire and police. The new council won't change that. The new mayor won't change that. Those are all things that a city is primarily responsible for. And the council will understand, Tom Thompson fully understands, the importance of economic growth. Because when you go into budget session and you're trying to figure out where the money's going to come from that you need to do what you want to do, you realize it comes from growth. So I don't think there'll be a dramatic change, primarily because as a city, we have certain responsibilities as priorities.
And just in case, Tom has your number. So.
And he knows how to get hold of me, and so do most of the citizens, so they know where to find me. And just because I'm stepping down as mayor does not mean I'm stepping down in terms of my desire to continue to improve this city. So I will still be actively involved in doing projects and making sure that I continue to add to the city of San Angelo, because I love this city.
Well, I know we haven't seen the last of you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad. Is there anything else you want, any closing words you'd like to say, anything that we maybe didn't cover?
My greatest honor has been to be elected as a mayor of the city of San Angelo, Texas. I have loved the job, if you will. I will say the first 4 years were tough because I don't think any mayors had to live through a tornado, the worst hailstorm, a contamination of the water, the worst winter storm, and COVID, all in the first 4 years. That was tough. And that was pretty hard to enjoy being mayor during those first 4 years because it was just one issue after another. And so you also looked at it and said you couldn't even really get some of the things started or done that you wanted to because COVID didn't allow you to do a lot of work. You couldn't grow the economy during COVID. You couldn't grow it during the worst winter storm. I mean, it was a tough 4 years. But the second 4 years have been an opportunity to really execute and deliver quality of life to the citizens of San Angelo. And I just want to thank the citizens for allowing me to have the opportunity to represent them.
Well, thank you for your service, for everything you've done, for everything, putting this community as your top priority, always.
Thank you.
All right. For the City of San Angelo, I'm Lorelei Day.